How will you curb inflation? You will see.
Yeah.
But how are you going to do it? It will come.
It will come.
How? It will come. But Christina, it's doubled. It will come.
Boom, we're back. Pod 92, brought to you, as always, by the 4Bs, Mr. All-In, aka the $1 Trillion Man, to Evil 10%, the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and surprise, surprise, no surprise, Mrs. No Show, aka Mrs. No Show.
We did see Mrs. No Show over the weekend.
In real life, indeed. She is alive.
She talked about ESG strategy. She talked about her pronouns.
Fact.
And she talked about vegan food.
And how she was going to do a mass shooting at the weekend.
Oh.
What? That's ESG, isn't it? Fight for trans kids. That includes killing kids, apparently.
See, we're about 10 seconds in. We're already looking to get cancelled.
It's been a while since we've said anything cancelable. And yeah, if we're going to come back on the cancellation route, you've gone and done it, Mr. All-In.
Not bad.
It's not bad at all. Not bad. We've got a bumper week because, as always, we are bringing everyone that listens, and thank you very much for all returning viewers and new viewers, a bumper week of stories in the world of Bitcoin.
It really is. Like, I think a couple of weeks ago we said how things getting a bit quiet, and I think all we needed really was a bit of a pump in the price. We just kind of went from the high teens to the low 20s, and then suddenly this the FUD comes back. People start hitting Bitcoin with some negativity, just to go, what the hell? Bitcoin's getting too much positive news. Price is pumping, and then and then obviously the banking system continues to implode. We've got GigaChad coming out buying more, and weirdly the regulators seem to be coming after a load of the exchanges and some shitcoins and stuff. And I think it also just prompts some Bitcoiners just to write some good articles and get out there a little bit. And that's it's just suddenly we've just gone from kind of almost scraping the barrel a little bit to now just go in. It has to be a top story to get in almost, because there's only room for so many.
But don't you worry, we're here. Subscribe, like, share, or don't share. Don't subscribe, and don't even listen. We'll still be here.
Yeah. Too many listeners, and we get cancelled pretty quick. But so we start with I think the biggest story this week, I showed it at the top, was Greenpeace. As we know, these guys have been paid $5 million from Ripple for their Change the Code, Not the Climate campaign against Bitcoin. They're saying that Bitcoin is polluting the world and we need to move to proof of stake. So that's why they want to change the code. They want to change the code in Bitcoin from proof of work to proof of stake. And so they've been talking about this for the last couple of months. But then this week they come out with a fantastic piece of art. It's Satoshi's skull. Comes with a nice little video, which I'll play now.
Think Bitcoin's not bad for the environment? Think again. Introducing my newest collaboration with Greenpeace. I'm Benjamin Von Wong, and I use art to raise awareness for issues like plastic pollution and climate change. 6 months ago, I was studying the impacts of climate change in Greenland, where I saw firsthand what the climate crisis looks like. Greenland's ice sheet is melting fast, and witnessing it with my own eyes was absolutely gut-wrenching. That's where I met Rolf from Greenpeace and learned about how fixing Bitcoin could help solve climate change. Here's Rolf.
Greenpeace is campaigning to change Bitcoin's code so it stops fueling the climate crisis and harming communities. Bitcoin's the world's most popular digital currency, and right now it's using as much electricity as entire countries, and most of that's coming from polluting fossil fuels like coal and gas. Bitcoin's climate damage got 125 times worse in just 5 years. But with the code change, we could cut the electricity needed to run Bitcoin by more than 99%.
But how to make sure that people paid attention? Enter the Skull of Satoshi, a symbol I built connecting Bitcoin and environmental destruction. This 11-foot skull made from hundreds of pieces of electronic waste, like the kind generated from Bitcoin mining, is months in the making. And hopefully, you get to see it in person soon.
Changing Bitcoin's code is going to take teamwork. We need everyone involved, from companies and government officials to crypto enthusiasts and climate activists. So like and share this video and follow Greenpeace USA to join the movement to change Bitcoin's code.
And yeah, it's just full of FUD and misinformation about Bitcoin's energy use, but includes a kick-ass piece of artwork. I mean, when I first saw it, I loved it. And I saw it out of context. Someone was just memeing it already. And I thought, wow, that's a cool bit of Bitcoin art that I haven't seen before. Instantly saved it to my phone, when I'm keeping that for the wallpaper of my phone kind of library. And looked at it a bit closer. I was like, what the hell are these massive chimneys pumping out smoke for? It looks like Bitcoin's just polluting the world here. Like, it's not very Bitcoin friendly. And then, yeah, a little bit of digging, it ties back to Greenpeace. I went, oh, wow. So that is purposeful. It is supposed to be a negative image of Bitcoin, but it looked cool as fuck. So obviously very quickly got co-opted by Bitcoin Twitter. And then now they're getting memed to hell. But what do you guys think about it?
I just shared my favorite image to the chat, and it's a bit of a meme. Obviously, the Bitcoiners had a bit of fun with it, and it's all your inflation are belong to us.
Yeah.
A bit of a nerdy reference, I think, to the 90s, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's one of these things. Whenever we get the criticism of Bitcoin, it's never researched. I've never come across an argument where they've actually done it justice. So it's like they haven't researched, they don't understand why it's proof of work, they don't understand what proof of stake is, and then we talk about coal and gas firing it. But as we've discussed, what is it, over 50% of Bitcoin is on renewables. It's due in a couple of years to hopefully reach become carbon negative, so it's actually taking pollution away.
Yeah, carbon neutral, then
carbon neutral, that's it. Yeah, so it just always seems badly researched, and these big corporations like Greenpeace, whose sole job or purpose is to protest things which I think are bad, they haven't even done the basics, have they?
No. And what they think that all they're doing is going, no, Bitcoin's great, it just needs to be better for the environment. So without removing any of the good qualities of Bitcoin, like the decentralization and scarcity, just change the code to be proof of stake, and therefore everything is solved. And it's just a massive lack of understanding that proof of stake completely removes decentralization,
but then,
and therefore removes scarcity, which removes all value to Bitcoin. You destroy Bitcoin by doing what?
But then on the flip side, like you're saying it like they're being, what's the correct word? Negligent. Whereas I'm not entirely convinced that Greenpeace are being negligent. Like they've got a track record of doing this kind of things.
Well, they've taken a $5 million payment from Ripple. So Ripple are a competing coin, right? And it's for this campaign. So we know the campaign is funded by a shitcoin that is just on a random blockchain. And weirdly, I don't think Ripple is even proof of stake, but they know what they're doing. Ripple are trying to break Bitcoin.
But even Greenpeace on its own, it could be paid by governments. It could just be them doing it for what a particular reason. So I've just dropped one which is worth putting into the show notes, which is a deep dive into all the times which Greenpeace have lied and exaggerated. And it's a great thread. I read it first. I'm like, this can't be true. But it's got a link to all the mainstream media, which backs up all the facts. So it's things like they've spread misinformation on various topics such as nuclear energy, which is affecting everyone around the world now because we're stuck on coal and gas. And if they hadn't done that, there would have been more nuclear energy. They've spread misinformation on GMOs. It's controversial Indian government stands. Then you've got it's being massively criticised for its own carbon footprint, with senior staff flying extensively for work and personal trips. So hypocrisy goes against their fight for reduced emissions. So standard we talk about every week with the billionaires like Bill Gates, who are demanding that everyone stop eating beef or doing anything. Yet they're doing it as well. They lied about the Shell oil storage buoy Brent Spar, claiming it contained 5,500 tons of oil. Later, it's found to contain just 75 tons. Then you've got rank companies based on the hazardous substances. And then critics argue that Greenpeace exaggerated facts. This sounds really familiar with the ESG ratings, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say that the whole climate and environmental stuff has been completely co-opted by ESG and government initiatives now. Yeah.
So that's 17 years ago they lied about that. When you've got indigenous issues, they oppose seal hunting, crucial to Inuit people's survival. So going against, fundamental nature, nuclear energy lying, consistently oppose nuclear energy, often exaggerating its dangers. They falsely claim that 200,000 people died due to the Chernobyl disaster, while the actual number is around about 4,000, but there's, about 18 of these. No, sorry, 12. There's 12 of these, and it gives all the backings for it. It just talks about what kind of organization Greenpeace are.
So looking into Ripple for the first time, I'll take a shower afterwards. So Ripple is neither proof of work or proof of stake, but in fact, its main process is a payment settlement, like similar to the SWIFT system.
It's a database.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, we all knew XRP. Anyone that was in Bitcoin around 2017, Ripple was known as, it's Bitcoin, but regulated and approved by banks. It was the safe one. It's why a lot of people that we worked around that were in the finance space heard a lot about Ripple, and the owners of that coin became billionaires because they managed to convince a lot of people that it was the kind of the financial approved Bitcoin. And, so
HSBC are going to sign off. I remember that one.
Yeah,
HSBC is signing off on it, going to do a big project all with regards to Ripple, and price is going to go up any minute and continue to go down.
And in my mind, Ripple is in the same category of Craig Wright. Yeah, back in 2017, they were both very relevant, had big profiles, but you just have to wait and spend this time weeds these shitcoins and people out. And now, 5 years later, or 6 years later, actually, since 2017, they're not relevant now. No idiot in work is buying Ripple anymore. It's dead. And most people have not even heard of Craig Wright. It's not even slightly assumed that maybe he's Satoshi. It's just all gone. Anyone new to the space now wouldn't even know who Craig Wright is or what Ripple is. But it's just annoying that this shitcoin money is still hanging around, and they're funding campaigns like this. And the good thing about Twitter and the kind of social network kind of movement that we live in now is at least anyone that follows Greenpeace and genuinely kind of listens and looks at what Greenpeace are talking about. I don't think they've conned many people about Bitcoin, because holy shit, they got brigaded to fuck by Bitcoin Twitter. Their comments are just full of people memeing them, posting articles that contradict it, and it's just full. And so anyone that jumps in, even slightly agrees, they get hounded too, toxic to the max. It's just, and even the artist. So the artist is this Von Wong guy. Yeah, and he seems like an all right guy, to be fair to him. He's getting caught in the crossfire. Yeah, he seems to like the environment.
He's switched stance, of course. So yeah,
kind of.
Yeah.
So he's posted this tweet thread, hasn't he? Because he's just
the thread of
starts it off going, Thursday evening, I was sad. That's how he starts off his tweet thread. Because I'm part of why he was sad. I was sending him some mean tweets too, just telling him how
you're generally quite mean.
But the problem is, right, not only did he do the artwork, but in the video that everyone just watched then, he's in it, right? He's narrating it, he's in it, it's about the creation of it. So he really is aligned by this. And so he is speaking the words. And I know they're not his words, have been written for him, he's just reading them out. But he's slandering Bitcoin here. he's factually incorrect. And he is just a paid contractor. He doesn't really know what he's getting into. And he's just suddenly realized, oh, fuck, I seem to be very, very wrong here. And so, his tweet thread, I think he is walking it back a little bit, admitting that he needs to learn, he needs to read more. But he still does settle up on the point that he thinks that Bitcoin could change the code still, and maybe proof of stake would be an improvement. But my conclusion on this is that I think the fallout of it was their whole change the code thing. I've seen Bitcoiners just go, no, it's code the change. That's what we're doing. The code already worked. It's just the change that needs to happen. So I like the flip of those words, because that's what Bitcoin's doing. We're coding the change that we want to see and switching away from fiat. And like I've said before, even if Bitcoin was 100% fossil fuels, and even if we use 100x more fossil fuel burning than we are, it doesn't matter. That would be a great cost to pay to switch out of the fiat land. Like, that is a good cost for a new form of money. Every single time humans innovate and progress and evolve to the next industrial revolution, it costs more energy because there's more people, we're doing more stuff, we're doing more creative things. So our energy usage as humans just continues to go up. So creating a new form of money, it would be perfectly in the natural order of things that the next form of money from fiat costs an order of magnitude more because it's better. So the fact that Bitcoin actually is likely going to be cost neutral to the planet, not only is a minor fucking miracle, but it doesn't even matter. It could be 100 times worse than the banking system for energy. And all that would happen is we would figure out a way, we'd just build big fuck off nuclear power stations to do mining. We'd find a different way. But as it is, using waste energy, renewable energy, that's how Bitcoin's going to do, because it goes to the cheapest possible energy to make mining more efficient.
But if we do proof of work, imagine all the things which the energy could be taken away from, such as making Sports Direct mugs for that giant cup of tea. So, kind of going on to his comments, so he said Bitcoin could shift away from the needless burning of fossil fuels. And it's just like, we've covered that. Like, the statistics are completely wrong. The focus, because, even within the last year, politicians and big anti-Bitcoiners have shifted their focus away from fossil fuels to just wasted energy, because they can't argue the fossil fuels anymore. And I don't know if everyone's noticed that who's listening, but it's certainly been a shift which I've noticed. He said, we're walking back, saying proof of work felt intuitively wasteful. And it's just like, how brave are you to talk about something which you know nothing about?
It's a classic.
It's just these people arguing. I think the best example which I've seen in my kind of like near sight has been you versus, was it Hamza on LinkedIn? About the government bailout. So the government bailing out SVB, and it's just like, you kept on with him, and I think there's just the admission where he realised he was very brave for talking about something which he clearly did not understand.
And it's just when he couldn't read his share price going down by 10%.
Yeah, and a mutual friend said to me, like, I think at first this person thought, oh, he's got Bitcoin in his profile, and when he had the realisation you actually knew what you were talking about, I went, oh shit, time to go quiet.
Away from this fight.
Yeah, exactly. So like, this guy's back down, and then we got
he's done a thread, hasn't he, of 17 kind of apologetic and consensus tweets around how he didn't understand and how he now understands, and he's learned the error of his ways and probably doesn't want any more memes being thrown at him. But it's given him a lot of obviously not exclusivity is the word I'm looking for. Just loads of like notoriety around the actual Satoshi.
But do you think he's realised he's an NPC now? He's getting involved in discussions which he's not qualified for, or even has done the basic research on. So, I grabbed some quotes out of his tweets. So Greenpeace believes that human ingenuity and innovation will prevail, and that a better version of Bitcoin exists in the future that has all the upsides and none of the environmental downsides. So we discussed this. Why don't you do some basic reading and you find the answer to that one? And a better version. So the whole point of a better version is to move money away from the state and not risk it going to the state. And he hasn't got basic financial understanding and economic understanding to understand that, never mind proof of work. So I think he needs to go back to the drawing board. And I think rather than just slamming with memes, someone actually needs to link him to something which is bite-sized, which can explain to him in something which he can understand of why he's wrong.
We all know, don't we, sat here, that it's not easy just to simply orange pill someone in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. God, we've been trying to do that outside of our core group for nearly years, right? You know, direct partners and people that we live with, and we can put subliminal messages, as we were talking before, of like displays around the house, and you know, read that, and every day they're like, what is that? And maybe eventually it'll sink in. But it is difficult for the average individual who has very little to no financial education to even comprehend where to begin with what we're talking about, because they've first got to get to the point of, hold on, what they're saying could be right.
Here's a question for you, just butting in here.
Yeah.
So for someone who likes reading, what if someone said to you, what would be the first book to help someone understand the situation which they're in? What would you say recommend them to read?
How do you mean what we're in right
so
now?
Literally, if you think where we were, probably not even 5 years ago, but more like 10 years ago, and say you were keen to read a book, what would you recommend someone in our situation 10 years ago who didn't really understand finance, certainly didn't understand Bitcoin? What would you say, read this? What would that book be to kind of like help them understand about what's going on?
I always start with Rich Dad, Poor Dad as the first financial book.
Okay. I think that's a really good choice. So I think it helps explain the issues of the economic system, financial system, monetary system.
Yeah.
And wraps it all together quite well, and why he invests in the way which he does.
Because before that, you know, ultimately, because I watched that interview, I don't know if you managed to watch it all, but essentially, you know, his dad was wrapped up in the system really tight, as you know, in the educational system, I should say. And anybody that was in sales or anybody that had their own business was seen as a bad individual. You know, his dad was super smart academically, but in terms of actually making their own way forward and thinking for themselves outside of the system just wasn't the case. And, you know, he had a son who was exactly that. So there was immediately a clash. And I think because he was so bad educationally, this is Robert Kiyosaki, he makes it super simple and easy for people to actually learn and understand what is going on. One of the things I don't like about him is that his message is weird, that his message hasn't really changed at all. You know, where the book came out in 97 and we're here in 2023 and he's still saying exactly the same. But at the same time, what he's saying is so factual.
Yeah, the only problem is his conclusion is buy gold in there as well, isn't it? So you just have to.
Yeah, at the time,
but
it's
a 26-year-old book, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he is a Bitcoiner now. So, Mr. Orlin, what about yourself? What would be your kind of like recommendation?
Bitcoin standard all day long.
It's going pretty hardcore there into it, isn't it?
That's what I'm thinking. That's why I stayed away from it.
I don't think it is. I think Saifedean is obviously, he's pretty extreme in his views, but once he's written it down, like the first 3/4 of that book is the history of money. And most people don't have a fucking clue what the history of money is. And I think there's so many investment books out there. I think it's whatever works for you, right? So if you're not even in the mindset yet of being a wage slave is not probably going to be the right thing for you, and you need to like leverage other things, like whether it's your own business or investing, So if you're not there yet, then yeah, a Rich Dad Poor Dad thing, or there's a whole host of investing kind of books, and I can't really think of ones I've read to hand. But for me, I think most people are in that mindset. I think a lot of young kids know that as well. They're really in this inflation world, and the whole hustle culture. It's almost become a meme to itself. You got to have a side hustle. That's how you get out of the rat race, right? So I think what a lot of people need is just, you know what, you don't really understand money. You're chasing just dollars or pounds, and you're just trying to build them up, and then you're trying to shove them into ISAs, pensions. And when I look at all the investing forums, they're all so fucking wrong, because they understand the system is kind of fucked, but they just go, and this is how you beat it. Try and be tax efficient here. Try and invest in this. Put it into ISAs and Vanguards and pensions. And it's go, you are so fucking wrong, and so many investment books lead you down those paths. And I just go, everyone just needs to take a massive step back and go back 1,000 years, where Saifedean takes you to the bartering system, Yap Island, the bartering of rye stones, the what's it called, the beads of Africa that ended up enslaving them. And you need to see what the consequences of having the wrong form of money at the wrong time, how devastating it can be, not just to families and to individuals, but to entire nations. And I think that really, right, for me, the penny dropped. And holy shit, if I'm in the wrong currency when the currency switches, you lose everything. It doesn't matter what you invested in. It doesn't matter about your diversified portfolio. It's all fucked. It all goes to zero, because everyone's moved to a different token and a different value of exchange. And that's what Saifedean just talks you through step by step by step. Every single thing is evidenced. Everything is referenced. You want to go read all the books that he uses, because takes, there's dozens and dozens of economics and history books referencing that. And the last quarter, it's an introduction to Bitcoin. This is what it is. This is why we think this is the soundest money, because he's taught you what money is. It needs certain qualities to be money. And then he just goes, he believes Bitcoin is next evolution. And for me, as a single book, it probably takes 10 hours to read. I challenge anyone to
not even 10. I'd say probably half of that. It's not particularly long, is it?
No, I challenge anyone to read that and then really have any big, other than just going, this sounds too good to be true. That's probably the main objection that I hear at the end of it. Because go, that can't all be right. You just go.
It's a really good point.
And it. Because I think a lot of the objections are just handled in there, aren't they? And it's just, so for me, that's the killer book. What's yours?
I think that part, though, what you're saying is the real difficulty for people, because it's hitting them with so many truths all at once that it would just leave people shook.
Yeah. You kind of think all our own journeys into like reading the Bitcoin Standard, and I think I would agree with Sir Nevelook in the Rich Dad Poor Dad, because I think Bitcoin Standard may be a bit extreme, but I kind of think back to, I was searching for the answers in my early 30s, trying to go, none of this makes sense. Like, it didn't make sense for years, and it wasn't until I read the Bitcoin, so I went, this makes sense now. Everything suddenly just made sense, and like my financial understanding, markets just all clicked together. So now I understand what the hell is going on, and I understand what the hell these different products are, because they're all bullshit. And I think that's pretty much where I had my big revelation, but I just don't know if it'd be too much as a first book without going on a kind of journey initially.
As a book that is all encompassing from a financial education and everything like that, it's up there. Another one, which is why I always reference it, and we're not as bigger fans of his, but I still respect him, is Nick Bhattia's book, Layered Money, because that's really short. And I always liken it to watching a film, and the film that always springs to mind is Rush Hour. It's simple, easy watching and listening. And that book you can really get through super quick, and still tells a half decent story.
I've just gone very anti Nick Bhatia since he got bought. Fuck him.
Actually, I remembered one of the first books I ever read. Actually, it's The 6 Day Work Week by Tim Ferriss.
Okay. 4 hours or 6?
Oh no, 6 hour work week. Yeah.
Yeah. The
4
four.
hour
Yeah,
work week.
yeah. I've
Over
got
4
I've got
hour. Yeah, I read that
4 hour
recently.
work week. Yeah.
Yeah, I literally read that about 20 years ago, I think, and was an avid
But you
fan
were
of
already doing that, but 3.5.
I got to it. Yeah, it was literally. I read that book and I just went, yeah, this is it. This is actually how you do scale your life and realize you enjoy the money. I did see a lot of people that had money, but they sacrificed it for time. And his whole concept is you can have both. Like, there's no point having the money without no time. So if you are going to build a business, make sure it's as hands off as possible. And that's why I went down the software route. And it was, build an app or something, and you build it once, sell it many times. You don't want a business where you're essentially renting yourself out by the hour, or the business fails if you're not there every hour, where big decisions need to be made. And so that's how he did well, building lots of businesses that he could outsource and was more hands off. So that's also a decent book for a lot of.
His was a supplement, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did loads of stuff. Yeah. Anyway,
I think that was his big one when he started moving. Was he did like I said, a supplement of some sort, which wasn't freely available back then, but I'm sure it's a saturated market now.
Yes, it's turning into book club here, but yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, anyway, fuck this conversation. So we're talking about the artist and reflecting. So the final thing which I picked up on him is, if Bitcoin miners help to invest in renewables like wind and solar to move the world off a reliance on fossil fuels, and the GP campaign will have nothing to run on. It's like, it's already happening, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, just do your research. And
yeah. One which I saw which made me laugh was someone lived by a stream or a river, and they put like a wheel in to generate electricity, and a bunch of Bitcoiners in a comment like going, I need one of those so I can hook my mind up to it.
Yeah.
I was like, ingenious, isn't it? These kind of things, you think, oh, I can power a TV, or I can power a miner and have a way to live.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that gave me confidence in his tweet thread is he's seems to be invited to the Bitcoin conference this year now. So he's looking to take the Scholar Satoshi there and engage in a good faith debate, he says. So that's exactly what he needs, right?
How is he going to have a debate? It's just going to be it's going to be a lesson for him.
Exactly, and that's what he needs, isn't it? Because the good thing is, right, if he agrees to go be a speaker at this thing, he's going to do a bit of digging, and he's probably going to talk to some Bitcoiners, and he's going to realize, oh fuck, I was so wrong.
That event is going to change his life. Yeah. Because don't forget, obviously, when I went to Amsterdam last year, and obviously there was non-Bitcoiners there. We don't take prisoners lightly. So whether you're on stage or anywhere else, you're gonna learn today.
And, I was gonna say, at Bitcoin Amsterdam, you had that like woman.
Yeah,
like, and she didn't pick up anything from that because, well, she wasn't willing to learn. She didn't have a growth mindset
to learn, and she was so stuck in her ways. I mean, she knew about Bitcoin from the very early days, from some Bitcoin bro from back in the days, who she said she went on a date with, and essentially she still doesn't get it. But I think that's because simply she's too salty to have invested into the soundest money that there is.
And now he's slamming models on his Lamborghini
all day long.
He's got infinite riches and big titty bitches. I'm hopeful for him, because I think he does seem like a slightly open-minded guy from the tweets he's doing. So
exactly.
It's the whole what is it? Is he complicit or is he incompetent? And I think at the moment, I'll be generous to him and just say he's incompetent at the moment.
I think Greenpeace are complicit.
So the test will be, now that he's getting the information, where does he go? Does he stick to his company line where he's probably getting a feed of money? Or he really could pivot this into creating some shit hot, proper Bitcoin art without the big fucking chimneys out the top. Just, we've got so many great memes in Bitcoin already. He's obviously a fantastic artist, because the art is just outstanding. So he could get commissioned. I've already seen people trying to buy it off him. Someone offered him a Bitcoin for it, and he went, and then he went, oh, I would love to have be able to accept, but I can't right now. And he's like, oh, you must have, how many Bitcoin did you get paid to do this? And he replied going, I didn't even get paid of a fraction of a Bitcoin for this.
Wow.
You just go, what the hell? Like, you just think for something this great, you'd have got paid at least a Bitcoin worth, right? Like 20 grand. But he seems like he really has been paid pennies for this, which is kind of shocking from Greenpeace, because
he needs to go on Displays, get it on there so we can all buy a version for ourselves.
Exactly.
Well, I want a little 3D model thing of it and all sorts. But
it's already in the Bitcoin history, isn't it? As we go through the journey of Bitcoin, so it's going to just be one of those many things, but it's going to go up in price over time.
Sweet.
Should we crack on? And we've got a lot of stories to get through. So the next one is, do we really want a $1 million Bitcoin price? So we covered it in Pod 91's podcast, which is the bet that Bitcoin will be $1 million by June 15, 2023, or may not be, by Balaji. And this is the debate on Reddit right now. So if you're a Bitcoiner, would you maybe you would, or maybe you wouldn't want the price of Bitcoin to reach 1 million? As always, I'd love to hear the comments on this from anybody listening, whether it's on Audible Streams or YouTube. But what's your take on it?
Part of me is like, yeah, fuck everyone. A big part of me, but then I do agree with the article in that, if Bitcoin suddenly went to 1 million, it means that the dollar would devalue so much and it would drown a lot of people. So what I'd like to see is what Saifedean described in the fiat standard, or rather what El Salvador are doing. So the kind of joint currency and the movement with incentivization towards Bitcoin, so everyone can get on the life raft. That's what I want to see. But yeah, part of me does just go, fucking told you so.
Yeah. My take on this is, like, people think we've got a choice, and the choice and the switch from one form of money to another, there's never enough lifeboats for everyone. It isn't how the switch of money works. Once the early adopters and the early majority are on board the new money, the late majority and the laggards lose everything. That's the way it works, because the price will go so parabolic, so fast, because there'd be FOMO, that it leaves people behind as definition. And also the way the existing financial system will go down will not be a slow descent. What have we already seen with the banks? They don't just have a bad day on the stock market. They don't go down 20% and then 6 months later another 20%. No, they go down 99.4% in an hour. Once the news breaks that a bank is insolvent, they go bust within the day.
Yeah.
And so that will happen for the big banks. It will happen overnight. And look at every single time a currency has collapsed. Does anyone have a soft landing in Venezuela, in Zimbabwe? Every single time people lose everything. And the difference here is we do have a life raft to save some people. There is an option to opt out of the banking system. So we can save some people. But by definition, once more than 20 or 30% of the population come in and put all their net worth in, the price of Bitcoin is going to be so high by the time we get 20% of the population that already you've left everyone behind. So that is always going to be the problem with it. And when it happens, because some people are going, oh, we're not ready for this in 90 days and all that kind of stuff, you go, look, this is going to happen what's going to happen. The financial system, like Bitcoin, what Bitcoin really does isn't going to change. Like Bitcoin's been ready for this for the last pretty much 14 years. Once Satoshi released it, it was ready. Yeah, okay, fine. Fees would have been high. We didn't have Lightning, blah, blah, blah. But we had a lifeboat. We had a life raft off fiat, and we would have just made it work. Once all this money comes flooding into Bitcoin, the product will get built straight away, like really, really fast. It's like the internet, like booming. Suddenly, once the products are required and there's a demand there, the products get built much faster. At the moment, the demand is limited, so the innovation is also limited, and we're still seeing loads of innovation, just people building stuff ready for when things are going to come. But fundamentally, it's, you know, whether it's in 90 days or 900 days or 9,000 days, Bitcoin doesn't really decide when fiat switches to Bitcoin. Fiat is going to implode itself, and we're seeing it. So when fiat finally fucks up, instead of everyone losing everything on that day, which is what would have happened, a proportion of people will be saved because they have their net wealth in Bitcoin. And what the rebuild looks like and how all that goes, fucking anyone's guess. I'm not very positive about it. I think it's going to be a very rough decade, really, of a lot of rebuilding. So, which is why I'm very much in the self-sustainable mindset of you need your own water supply, your own electricity supply, your own food supply. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And that is what I am doing. And because I got my Bitcoin life raft, but in that potentially, whether it's 1 year or 10 years of rebuild, where the entire fiat system's gone under and the majority of people have lost everything, in that Mad Max environment, I want to have the basic needs covered. So that's what I'm working towards.
Dried food, guns, ammunition, and a lifetime subscription to OnlyFans.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many OnlyFans people will be working then. But
I was going to say, you're going to have to download those videos.
Yeah. Pre-recorded or downloaded.
Or on the Wank Bank.
Yeah.
But yeah, a gun is a very good point. And it is something I'm looking into. Obviously, in the UK, it's a bit more difficult to get that kind of stuff. But if you do live out in the country a little bit like I do, you can get shotgun and rifle licenses. You can just pretend you're looking at foxes and stuff like that. And it is something I'm looking at getting hold of. Because who knows? Who knows? I'm out in the middle of nowhere anyway. But who knows, a van could come by one day and you just need to fire a shot in the air just to let them know they don't fuck about here. You know, who knows? And I think if you live in the city and stuff, like cities and supermarkets, if your main source of food is from a supermarket, I would be extremely concerned because, like we saw, right? We even had a bit of a dry run of it. Like 3 years ago, when the rush for all the food and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it wasn't for food; it was for toilet roll, if you remember correctly.
Yeah. All the pasta and the food and a lot of stuff where you could only buy two of one, like certain things, and obviously the toilet roll thing was ridiculous, but it can happen. I think back then, because I think when I was in Puerto Rico, I heard this, and it was Puerto Rico as an island is very reliant on imports, and it only had 2 weeks worth of food on the island. So it was very, it was trying to get more self-sufficient, because if there was ever a big tornado or something, or basically a big kind of human disaster or natural disaster, they might be cut off for more than 2 weeks and they would starve. They wouldn't have enough food. And I think I heard in Britain, we've got about a month of food. And you'd think that we'd have so much more than that. But in reality, there's so many people. And we import so much stuff. So if a natural disaster happened, which bizarrely is like a pandemic, like, you know, a real one this time, where you can't transport stuff around the world, within 4 weeks, the supermarkets are empty. So the only people that can have food are the ones that have been stockpiling it. And that's pretty scary. So that's the world we live in, and it's the fiat system that is underpinning that. So if this does go under, I would at the very least suspect a period of rationing and not being able to get hold of the food you want, which, you know, that's why I think they know it's coming, which is why they're trying to get people on this plant-based sludge, why they're trying to get people on crickets. And once they put you on it, you ain't getting off it. That's going to be your food now.
Well, I think it's not for that reason. I think it's more dependence, because they can control the food supply fully with the factory produced sludge. You know, it's the funniest thing is it's been in dystopian films, it's been in dystopian novels for literally 50 to 100 years, and people are going, "Oh, that sounds good." It's just like, fucking hell, this is meant to be nightmare fuel. So you're lapping it up. And what I'd like to kind of drag this back to, so
funny you say that. You're right.
Yeah, we've kind of fallen away from the story as Mr. All-In went on his monologue.
That's literally it.
But kind of coming back to this, I read one of the comments on Reddit, so someone called Smegtastic. So a bit of a different viewpoint from yours and ours. which is I just watched houses 100% in about 1 to 2 years, and when I watch startups get yet another bailout with my tax dollars or devalued savings, I'm fine with consequences.
Yeah,
Obviously, more of a short-term view of him, because I think he hasn't considered that the whole financial system would have to realign and everything will be a bit mayhem.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, people don't have sympathy, so I get that. I think it's just the point of, you can debate it all day long on fucking Reddit or Twitter whether you want this price or that price, or you want a nice switch over or a quick switch over. What's going to happen is going to happen.
But I think
you don't have a say in it. That's my point.
What is it? A million would be about. Would that be the valuation of gold, or is that lower? I can't remember what that is.
Oh, a million's blasted through gold.
Gold apparently is around about 2,000 right now, and they're chanting around, it could go to 3K this year. And by the way, what I do say is, and we've always said this, similar to the whole, Bitcoin versus Peter Schiff argument, because we love Schiff, because majority of what he says is exactly right and it's spot on. But essentially, if Bitcoin goes up or if gold goes up, they're both going up together, because we know that the system is broken and there's something wrong with it. So having these alternative monies or assets outside of the system will be necessary, but there'll be one that will be a lot faster, quicker, higher in price, and we all know what that is.
So just having a quick Google then, the Bitcoin market cap is around about 500 billion and gold is 12 trillion. So that'd be a factor of 24. So 24 times by 23. So it's around about 500,000.
Yeah, we could double the market cap,
Yeah, to hit gold. I think that's really the first thing which it's got to hit, is it's got to replace gold as a store of value to actually then move into being more of a central currency or considered a much larger.
It's one of those things, though, that it's a stepping stone, isn't it? And I always, because I've thought about this, what we're seeing is it's the Pac-Man Bitcoin meme. And the Pac-Man Bitcoin meme is slowly but surely we're taking a bank down. And so when people realize, okay, Signature Bank, Silicon Bank, all of these different various banks are going down, Credit Suisse, I'm going to move my money. And they move their money slowly but surely into Bitcoin. Some people, again, will have moved into gold. And then it's going to be something else, and then something else. At the end, the ultimate end bosses and the ultimate end fight is Bitcoin versus gold, because people will be transporting their cash dependent on their risk appetite into one or the other. They'll be like, I need to get my money out of the bank. Like, I can't leave it there.
The market cap of gold will be shooting up at that point, won't it?
Exactly. So, it will be. It will be.
Another milestone is silver, and I think it either just overtook it or got very close on the last bull run.
So to its all-time high, or
so 54,000 pounds is what Bitcoin would need to be. I can't. What was the peak value in pounds?
50, I think it was.
Yeah, 51.
Yeah, so very close to silver, and silver's a shit store of value. So that's another marker. So I think we've got to go through these kind of like store of value first of all, and then be an extreme store of value when fiat crashes, which is when one Bitcoin becomes $1 trillion, because $1 trillion you can probably go and buy a toilet roll with.
Yeah. It's slowly but surely, isn't it? And nothing ever happens fast. But what we are seeing again, and we shouldn't forget, is the collapse along the way of what we've taken on the journey.
Yes. For me, it's like any Bitcoin bull market, right? It's slowly, then all at once.
Yeah.
The price doesn't tend to just tick up nicely, does it? It's once we get through an all-time high, it just freaking goes parabolic, and that's what will happen, and that's what we were talking about last time. The super cycle. Does the price of Bitcoin ever come down? People are
wants to
thinking
buy at the moment because it's on sale.
exactly. No one buys when the price is low.
Mhm.
But yeah, should we have a look at how the Swiss are feeling right now?
Oh God.
Credit Suisse, who has a senior director that chooses gender on a daily basis, has been bailed out, and to the tune of 109 billion Swiss francs, which works out at about 13.
Well, they're not using the term bailout, are they, at the moment?
No, of course not.
They're trying to claim it's not a bailout in the US and UK, but it's a bailout.
Of course
It's very controlled in terms of the narrative, isn't it? Because
But this one
right.
does say bailout, and it's Bloomberg.
Yeah, I think in this one they actually are admitting this is just a straight exchange of money, and they even say taxpayer exposure amounts to 109 billion Swiss francs, which works out at $13,500 per Swiss person, which is an insane amount of money, right? Even with our inflation world, 13.5 grand. That's a lot of money per citizen. So imagine how angry you'd be if you're a Swiss person, but at least they're getting the facts, right? This is nice and obvious. You can just see it on the screen. Whereas if you're American or British at the moment, we've bailed out banks, but they just go, it wasn't a bailout. And in reality, we know there is. They know they printed money, or they created loans, they created debt. And at some point, inflation and some type of new tax law is going to be thrown at us to pay for it. But we don't know how much it is because they just bare lie to our face. The Swiss, at least, seems to have gone, yeah, we bailed them out. Fuck ton of money. You're paying through the nose. And what? You can't do nothing about it. So I respect the honesty.
They're a really funny country. Like, they're pegged to gold much later than everyone else, and their inflation doesn't tend to be as high. So it's just a very, very strange nation around what they do with their currency. And then I was just having a quick Google about Credit Suisse because I'm never quite sure why these banks have collapsed, and it's just basically saying there's been loads of things going on there. So Credit Suisse's failings included a criminal conviction for allowing drug dealers to launder money in Bulgaria, entanglement in Mozambique corruption case, a spying scandal involving a former employee and an executive, and a massive leak of client data to the media. I'm pretty sure most of the other banks have done all this shit. Like HSBC have got the biggest fine, I think, and that was for laundering money from the Mexican cartel, where they had special cash deposit slots put in their bank so they could put their crates of money into there. And yet this is telling us how bad Credit Suisse are, and HSBC are one of the super banks, aren't they?
And they made tens of billions of profit, and then they got fined like 3 billion, and not a single person went to prison. They're really proud of the biggest fine in history. But it wasn't even 10% of the money they made. How is that a fine? That's just a reward. What's like you taking commission? Like what's that?
It's ultimately what
I just read this article
what
again.
A fine is.
Yeah, I've just read this article again, by the way, and it's actually literally it said every person, but every man, woman, and child in the country. They included the kids in this money. Yeah. So imagine some 5-year-old being like, "Sorry, son,
I'm already in debt.
Your pocket money, $5 a week is going straight to the government. You owe 13.5 grand, mate, to bail out Credit Suisse."
I was going to say, it's really bad when they include cream pies.
Hey,
sperm.
I'm not getting the connection
here. Well, yeah, it was with kids. I say when we get it to sperm next.
Well, this is it, isn't it? When you disperse the number down to kids, it makes it easier to, pun intended, swallow. But ultimately, it would be a lot more, wouldn't it, if they just matched it at just simply and purely the adult population. So 13,500 is already a lot.
Yeah. And weirdly, I said they were being open and honest there. They're not really, are they? It's probably nearer 20 grand because you can't include non-earning like kids. Yeah. So you can't include a 5-year-old in that. That's just ridiculous. So probably, 20-30% of the population under age of 18, just as a rough thing.
Oh, here we go. Let's get these statistics. So they're saying that Oh, that's 15 to 64. That's crap. I found there's a nice little wiki article on demographics, but it's given me 0 to 14 and 15 to 64. So if we use the 15 to 64 and 65 over, it's around about 74, 84. So it's about 85% of the population is not a child. And the population's around about 8.7. So it's not going to go up as drastically. It's not a bottom heavy one, but we got, what is it, 13,500 times by 8.5. So that, well, so that's around about 114 billion. Yeah, that's correct. So if you aim at about 85%,
8.5, is it?
Yeah, 8.5 million, so about 114 billion.
Yeah.
So if you take their population and put it to 85%, that's around about 7.2 million. So yeah, the payments would go up quite a bit. So it's more like 16, 17,000. So not quite as bad.
And that was brought to you by Dr. Evil 10% Maths Corner. What everyone tunes in for.
You can comment in the comments section.
I was hoping it was going to be more
Misinformation.
drastic, so I thought it was worth looking into.
Yeah.
And you were wrong.
Yeah,
You
it
were
was.
so wrong.
We've got so much to get through
No one's getting
still.
that one back.
Let's crack on.
Well,
The next story is the SEC pursued Coinbase over security violations. Now, I see the SEC looking at the likes of Coinbase as its own piggy bank, essentially, because they can see that Coinbase is making lots of money. Maybe obviously not as much as it once did, but still, nonetheless, they're making money and they want a little piece of the pie. And so they are watching Coinbase very closely. And lo and behold, Coinbase, you've broken the law. And
Well,
therefore we're going to enforce action.
So everyone's favourite SEC chair, Gary Gensler, he said on multiple occasions that he believes crypto exchanges, including Coinbase specifically, are operating as unregistered security exchanges in the US, citing the number of tokens they list and arguing the vast majority of these resemble securities. Now, what's really interesting is Brian Armstrong has been tweeting quite a bit about this. So he's actually put it all down. He said 2 years ago, the SEC reviewed our business in detail and approved Coinbase to go public. Our S1 clearly explained our asset listing process and included 57 references to staking. Brian Armstrong. Going forward, the legal process will provide an open and public forum before an unbiased body will be able to make clear for us all to see the SEC something has not been fair, reasonable, or even demonstrated the seriousness of purpose when it comes to the engagement on digital assets. Like Coinbase are a company who seem to cross the T's, dot the I's. So I think this is going to be a public slap on the wrist and it won't go to court. That's my prediction on this, because it just sounds like if the SEC take Coinbase to court, they're going to be embarrassed.
No, what this will be is just the classic. It's what they did to all the social networks. They just find them in foul of some laws. So for the social networks, they found them in breach of some privacy laws. And what they use that for is to pull them up in front of Congress, embarrass them, and ask them loads of really direct questions and threaten them with various things like splitting them up, regulating their space into non-existence, and just putting so much compliance overhead on them that they fail to be able to function as a business anymore. Or what they do behind the scenes is, I'll work closer with government. We want backdoors. We want to see fucking everything. There's loads of stuff happening in your platform. We're nervous. We need a backdoor. This is what they're doing to all the exchanges now. They're threatening them with huge regulation, huge fines, huge shutdowns. And they just go, look, we know we fucking approved all this a year ago, but bullshit. We write the rules, we're changing them. So if we want to put a fine on you, we can put a fine on you. However, behind closed doors, they'll have the chats and they go, look, we know we get some tax information from you at the moment, but we want more. We want complete unfettered access into this. and we want to be able to pull the strings if and when we need to. And I honestly think, because it's happened to Kraken, it's happened to these guys, and they're all getting hit with the same thing. And it's just they've just picked a random law, gone, you've broken it, and they come in, and then this is when the heavies come in, and the US government build their backdoors. That's what I think is happening here.
Yeah, we saw kind of the pinnacle of that with the social media networks during the pandemic.
Yeah, well, it happened just before, when they all got dragged in over the privacy stuff in the years before. And then when we did have the pandemic, look at every single social network, completely government-controlled narrative. Anything that was outside of that, shut down, banned instantly. The government knew what they were doing there. They wanted control. They didn't just want them to be able to send an email to Mark Zuckerberg and go, look, you need to do more on this, and him just replying with, we're doing everything we can, sir, and just panting, just like palming him
they
up.
were
Like, we need him over a fucking barrel.
They were blocking users. They were muting messages. They were raising awareness of government following accounts. So it was absolutely.
Yeah, they want to do what they did in Canada, right? So they want to be able to go, right, this is a list of people. We want all their accounts frozen. We want all their private addresses they've ever interacted with handed over. We want everything. Yeah. So if we want to, because at the moment, you know, they're I think that what they're worried about is, you know, if someone oversteps the line and they can freeze your bank accounts, piece of piss. Obviously, the banks are already co-opted by the government, so they will just comply. Whereas at the moment, the exchanges probably aren't as much. They need some really official, almost like a warrant to be able to do this kind of stuff. And they go, look, that takes it's way too much work. We want to be able to press buttons over here. So we want backdoors, APIs.
Do you think this will encourage like Bitcoin only exchanges because they can't be accused of securities then? Because it's classed as a commodity.
Well, effectively, it will make sure that they won't dabble in all of these or any of these shit coins, because why would they want to risk the fine? Because that really is where the risk comes from. But equally, you know, they're just trying to say people aren't well versed enough to understand what they're gambling in, and when really they are, and it is at the, you know, the risk of whoever is giving up the money. Naturally, though, Coinbase, by doing so, are kind of facilitating the opportunity for people to obviously lose money in this nature and in this way. So I guess by removing that, it removes any opportunity for the SEC to go after them, because they can just hold their hands up and say, well, if we only do Bitcoin, it's decentralized, it's outside of our hands.
Yeah. Unless they do staking on Bitcoin then. Because you can do staking on Bitcoin.
Oh, staking, yeah. But staking's, you know, does Swan Bitcoin do anything like staking?
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I was going to say they'll be one of the hardest ones to get, so hopefully they'll be around for longer, but it does bring back the need for peer-to-peer. And I know that one of those collapsed, but maybe it does bring them back as more of a force in the market when all these big exchanges get hit because they're holding shit coins and staking, and they disappear. But I suppose another point is it could also be the hammer blow to end all the shit coins.
Yeah, it all depends, because like you said, I don't think it's going to really stop them doing anything. But really what they want is leverage, probably a bit of some money, and then they want the back doors. They kind of want them to carry on. This is the last thing they want to do to the social networks, is shut them down, because they knew what would happen is some others would pop up, and then they've got to wait another 10 years to see which ones are going to win. They like waiting to see who the winners are, and then they regulate to fuck those ones, and they need to get leverage on them to make sure they stay in line. This is what they're doing to the exchanges now. I think they've let it run for 14 years. They see which the biggest exchanges are, and now they're going, great, these are the ones that everyone uses. We're clamping them down, and we want the back doors. We want to be able to freeze accounts, look at everything. We want open book for the US government, and that's what they're trying to do.
You could end up with the government exchanges like in China and India, where you can't take your Bitcoin off the exchange, so therefore it's almost pointless.
Yeah, well, but they're smart enough to like not tell you it's a government-run exchange, right? So they don't tell you we have government-run social media now. It just is.
Yeah.
And the Twitter
I was
files
going to
proved
say,
it.
apart from Twitter, where Elon fact checks Biden all the time.
Yeah, well, that's only changed since Elon took over, because we're in the Twitter files that he released. The proof was in there that the government were changing and running policy inside Twitter. He released all the information. It's factually correct that Twitter was a US run government website, which is why he got so much flack and abuse and propaganda against him when he bought it, because they knew he wasn't owned like the previous Twitter board were, and he took it private, and now Elon does what the fuck he wants with Twitter. They do not like that.
I think the summary of that story, though, is Gary Gensler should go back to talking about steaks.
Yeah, he's a clown. As always, he's just in the tap dog. He's just one of the tools that the US government can use, being used, which is why he doesn't make any sense.
Never forget that he was intricately linked to SBF. He spoke to him numerous occasions. He audited him numerous occasions. He was linked into him through the CEO of the sister company. Just remember, he was heavily linked with him.
Well,
and he was a fraudulent motherfucker.
Well, it's not a story that we're going to cover, but breaking news is that SBF paid $40 million to a Chinese official that has just come out, and that he could be being charged with this act of bribery. And so I'm sure that there will be many others as well that will be unsurfaced in terms of this. So Gary Gensler, if you have taken any money, whether it's $1 or more from SBF, I'm sure it'll rise to the surface.
I doubt it.
Well, it's public that half the fucking Democratic Party taking money from SBF.
Yeah, but I was going to say Gary Gensler can't be linked into it.
No, but yeah. Obviously, we say we don't talk about shitcoins on here, but the next one slightly is as well. We've already started doing it anyway. There's always the danger when you go into exchange land. But I just thought we'd throw this one in here because it does seem pretty big, right? This is the next story. Unfortunately, it is from a shitcoiner, but it is a very good breakdown of what's happened. So it's why I linked his Twitter thread, but don't read it.
I missed it. I missed that it's a shitcoin. I missed the .eth.
Yeah, it just makes me cringe. I nearly didn't do it just because he had that in it, but I'm like, I just went fuck it. But so Binance are the latest one to be caught in breach of some regulations, and then this one looks pretty big. So this is CZ, the CEO of Binance, and they're accused of basically counter trading their customers. So they can obviously see their order book and what people are going long and short on, and the CFTC are accusing them of basically just taking the counter trade on their customers and wiping them all out and stealing their money. And looks pretty damning. The court filing looks like they got one hell of a lot of information. They blatantly had a couple of insiders that have turned whistleblower on this. They've got, what was worrying in here is they also have access to CZ's Signal conversations, which suddenly raised a flag to go, oh, is Signal also a government-owned messaging service? Which, seeing a load of Bitcoiners replying to that seems to be common knowledge, actually, that WhatsApp is obviously government-run and they're reading everything because it's part of Facebook now. But Signal also has been co-opted. So CC seems to have protected himself a bit because he's using the auto-delete of the messages, but the conversations and who he was talking to are in there, and they're using it essentially as a red flag to go, why is he talking to his head of regulation, head of compliance and all that stuff, not on email, not on text? He's using Signal and with auto-delete on the messages. It obviously looks a little bit sus. But CZ's come out and gone, this is nothing. Obviously we need to change one shitcoin into another shitcoin. It's part of us balancing the books and all that kind of stuff. He's just explained it away. But it looks pretty damning. Once they put this type of document together and they charge you and it all goes formal like this, they know then they must think they got a really freaking strong case.
I mean, it would definitely be a banning of Binance from America, so the US arm will be shut down, but they've still got China and, you know, the rest of the world. So,
Yeah.
but it's whether they can make anything stick around those kind of like trades, because I think there's two parts of this. It's illegally operating in the US, which they've been warned about before. Then there's the second about the trades. So the one about illegally operating in the US is easy. You know, they are. Whereas the bit about the trades is you're saying it's about all these conversations, and because they're like Chinese based, I think a lot of Americans will kind of go, oh, better not deal with them anymore. So they've dismantled their reputation, even if it isn't true.
Everyone bites the dust there.
Yeah, well, they're going after the.
It does seem quite
two
coordinated
biggest-
though.
well,
We've had a boom in Bitcoin, and suddenly Coinbase, Kraken, and Binance are all being gone after. We've had Greenpeace going after Bitcoin as well, just as, you know, the dollar's starting to falter and Bitcoin's starting to shoot up. It seems like quite a coincidence to me.
Yeah.
Well, there's always going to be a resistance to the up and coming, I guess, isn't it? It's never going to be an easy route to the top.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, because say Kraken and Coinbase are US based in their core, I think they've gone for them in one way, which is just, are you infringing our regulations here because these are unregistered securities? So basically, we need to bring you on board and get you part of the team, but we want you to keep running because we want the customer base to stay there and control them from there. But I think with Binance, they know that it's going to get the middle finger from CZ. So they're going, we need to go a different tack with him, which is, let's make his entire business fraudulent, make it insider trading. So that gives us a reason just to ban him from US. Because I think they know the Chinese government have already got the backdoors on their end, so they can't have backdoors as well. It's just not going to be there's too many doors. They're going to be hitting into each other. So I think they're just going to go with the ban on Binance, and they're just going to try and co-opt the US exchanges and make them basically government agencies. Which, as we always say, what should you do about it? Just buy Bitcoin now. Buy it's cheap. Get it onto your ledger. These on and off ramps aren't going to be as easy. And they're not going to be as private. They're not really private now, but at least they work. Don't take it for granted that these on and off ramps of fiat at the moment, it's so easy to dump your fiat into sats. So easy. I think it's going to get harder. So I really wouldn't wait around. It's also going to get more expensive. So
Part of me's just died knowing that Signal has been corrupted.
yeah, it's sad. We don't use auto deleting messages either. We probably should switch that on.
Yeah. Unless it's, of course, it's taking the piss out of Mrs. No Show. They can stay. It's all love.
So are we moving on to everyone's favourite store of value next?
Everyone's favourite shiny rock.
Yeah, so this is one which I think surprised me. Obviously, someone who doesn't know anything about gold. I think I did talk about investing at gold at one point where I realised how bad inflation was going to get, but I never did for some reason. Can't remember why. But it does raise a big question because you look at this image.
I think we verbally slapped you and brought you back to some sense.
Well, I don't think you really need to do that. I think looking at this image, you've got a gold bar which has been cut in half and it's filled with tungsten, obviously a cheaper metal, something which I don't really know about. But it by using tungsten, it's got the same density, which means it weighs exactly the same as gold should. So really hard to verify, and it's gold layered. So the initial test would be, oh, it's gold, but it's not. It's just gold layered, stuffed with tungsten. How would anyone know that? And looking at the image, if you try and pretend the tungsten isn't there, it looks fine. It's got its stamp numbers. It looks gold. It's got some kind of like, was it fine gold, 999.903920. It looks very official. You know, most people, well, I think pretty much everyone wouldn't know the difference, but if this counterfeit's coming out, experts are going to be had like Schiff.
Oh, there's this is actually in the Bitcoin standard, this, by the way, that tungsten weighs the same as gold. And it was a very common way of creating more gold. You just gold plate a tungsten bar. It's where biting coins came from and stuff. You try and scratch the top layer of the coin to see if there's a different type of metal underneath, or if it bends. Then they might have used an even cheaper metal, because obviously the people started using all types of metal to begin with, which is why people then would weigh your gold coins to make sure they weighed what they should. But then they figured out tungsten weighs the same. So now weighing the coins didn't work. You had to bite them, and you would try and scratch the top layer off, see if there's a silver metal underneath. But this is literally the number one reason I've never bought gold, is because you have to trust, not verify it. Because I've seen people try and go, right, let's just go through the verification process of gold. And the only way to really figure it out is you have to melt it down. And when you buy gold, it comes with all the official stamps that makes it look official, right? And you don't want to melt it, because then you lose the stamp. So you have to get some your own stamps, and that costs money. You got to melt this stuff down. And there's rumors, and when you dig into this stuff, that there is shit tons of gold-plated tungsten in Fort Knox, everywhere. But no one wants to go through the process of verifying it, because it's just terrifying to do it, how much money you actually don't have. It's just gold-plated tungsten. So it's one of them where no one is incentivized to melt down their gold, because they've already exchanged it for fiat, right? They've already bought this gold. You don't want to find out. You don't want to go verify your gold and realize 20% of it is tungsten. You just want to freaking open pray and leave that gold bar exactly as it is, and hopefully flog it to someone else later who doesn't want to verify it. Because if you do, you might have very bad news that this is the big lump of tungsten in the middle of it. So this gold just as a store of value just makes absolutely no sense. It's just so easy to forge it now that anyone buying gold online, you don't know that you're not buying a tungsten bar. Even if you buy from the most credible source ever, there's a chance that they have a gold bar or gold coin that is a tungsten coin, and you wouldn't know.
It's scary, isn't it, that people will potentially go down the gold route, not think about Bitcoin, and be left with tungsten.
Yeah, I know. And all the gold bugs underneath are like, oh no, you don't know anything. It's super easy to verify gold. It's like, come on, you just, it isn't easy to verify gold. Everybody knows this. You can't just do the simple little tests on it. You have to pretty much melt that coin down to see what is underneath. And it damages the coin. It's too hard to do it. And
it's funny how you say that as well, because some of my friends said, oh, like I shared the article with them, and they were so dismissive of it as, oh, that person deserves to get mugged off because they didn't test it. It's just like, but really and truly, if you bought it, you wouldn't know any different, and you would have done exactly the same, and you would have ended up the same, because the money would have been exchanged. By the time the money's exchanged and you've got to this point where, we don't know how many gold bars that there may have been in the whole transaction. So, the first couple might have been true gold bars, but the other 5, 10, 15 or more may have just been tungsten. So you're still left holding the bag.
Yeah. It's just one that it's just so easy to verify Bitcoin. You buy some Bitcoin, you just send it to your ledger, and you just know that you're part of the 21 million. You know the exact supply. You know that you have some Bitcoin on the BTC blockchain, and you don't need to do any further verification really. It's just you've got it. You've got your address. But whenever you buy that bit of gold, you got to do a load of tests. You don't know who you're buying it off, how much you're going to buy, unless you've seen it melted down and made into some jewelry. Then you can be pretty confident. But if you're buying a lump of gold in any shape or form for like a store of value, you don't know. And it just doesn't make sense either anyway. Come on, let's just say you put your net worth into gold, and then what we think is going to happen, the fall of fiat is going to happen, right? what are you going to do with that gold, really? How are you going to live day to day when you've got a lump of gold that is probably worth, if let's just say gold becomes the store of value of the world, right? So you got a gold bar that used to be worth 10 grand. It's now worth 100 million. How are you going to break that down into pieces and actually be able to use it? Just, it's so ridiculous.
Change for 100 million. Anyone change for 100 mil? 100 mil.
I know.
Change for 100 mil.
Whereas with your Bitcoin, it's like, oh, guess what? It's already divided down into 100 million Satoshis per Bitcoin. There you go, all done. Lightning Network transfers it globally anywhere you want instantly. Send 1 Satoshi if you want. Done. It's not even a fair fight to compare gold with Bitcoin. It's just we beat it on every single measure other than history. So all gold has is history. But all old forms of money have history until they fall.
There you have it. All right. Giga Chad is stacking again. And now when he's stacking, sleep easy. Because MicroStrategy has repaid their loan of 205 million Bitcoin collateralized loan in full at 22% discount for 160 million. And I take it that's because of the amount of money printing that has gone on since they took the loan out.
Well, to think that Silvergate went bust as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then at the same time, they've acquired 6,455 extra Bitcoin. And so now MicroStrategy, as part of their strategy of being a software business and also a Bitcoin holding and acquiring business, now holds 138,955 Bitcoin on its balance sheet.
I read a stat today, but 1 out of every 151 Bitcoin belongs to MicroStrategy. That is insane.
1 out of 151.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you get
literally, they are like country size. So you get hyper Bitcoinization. They have a significant share because if you think in the nations, the US owns about 30% of the world wealth within the US, and for a single entity, they're coming up towards 1% and might even reach it.
Yeah, this really the escape raft we all need to be on really is the fucking Saylor one. He's going to be the one that
but isn't it scary? Aren't the potential problems with this? He'd have too much wealth and power, and this is like the fiat standard.
Well, not really, because he's going to have a load of wealth, but it's proof of work. He's earned it, and it's just going to be. He's not going to be able to hold power forever. He's going to have a limited amount of this Bitcoin. Eventually, it's going to have to be spent. And
don't you end up with like a monarchy which is self-fulfilling? It just rattles around like these unelected monarchies almost because he's that rich and powerful.
Yeah, look, one person having this much wealth is going to be isn't desirable. Yeah, because they spent 4 billion on it so far, which is obviously a ridiculous amount of money to buy Bitcoin for. And yeah, if we 100x from here, he's the richest guy on the planet by a country mile. And then 100x is only just getting started. So yeah, he's going to basically have everything. It's going to be an enormous amount of money, but Jesus, there's nothing we can do, is there? This is what I say about how are we going to switch from one standard to another? How do we make sure it's a little bit more fair, more people get on board? Everyone gets Bitcoin for the price they deserve, and Saylor has done obviously very, very well in the fiat world, and he's decided to convert a huge chunk of this fiat into Bitcoin. No one can stop him. The network can't stop him. We shouldn't be able to stop him. What he does with this huge amount of wealth when the time comes, we've got to hope he's a force for good and not evil.
It'll be Mecha Saylor tearing down countries in his mecha suit.
Yeah, it is kind of nuts. Because it's funny that even like people were talking about this Silvergate loan, and they were wondering like, oh, does he not have to pay it off now? They've gone bust. Did he lose any Bitcoin in this? Like, where was the Bitcoin held? Did they have it as collateral? And I think they did have some collateral of his. I think Silvergate did own a shit ton of his Bitcoin as collateral to make sure he paid back the loan that he took, which he then bought even more Bitcoin with, I think. So he's now managed to get a discount because they went under. He paid 22% less than he should have. And then just probably with the gains, just gone, oh, fuck it, I'll just throw another 150 million into Bitcoin. And it's
YOLO'd in.
Kind of nuts. It's fucking... It's one
opportunistic, isn't it? Because he was never under the understanding that Silvergate were going to go bust. So, it was always his intention to pay back the loan in full. And lo and behold, everything that's happened has transpired, and it's allowed him to buy those extra Bitcoin.
Sweet. Last story of the week.
Crazy. Yeah. Okay, so Bitcoin meme wars. So this is taken from Citadel21.com, a great staple website with lots and lots of Bitcoin content. If we were talking earlier on about book club, let's say, but if you really want to get into to Bitcoin and you don't know where to start, Citadel 21 is a great knowledge hub for everything Bitcoin. So first of all, I guess ultimately, we cover off what's a meme and how memes work. I'm not going to teach you how to suck eggs and that, but Bitcoin really does love a meme. And I think we love a meme because it's just so simple. A picture tells 1,000 words. But in here, we're talking about the Bitcoin meme wars. So one of those wars is printing money versus fixing the money, one which I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, I think
any wars spring to mind?
Any wars?
You guys? Yeah, the Bitcoin wars. We do, and we've just covered it there in the story before in terms of Bitcoin versus gold and the memes. I'm sure that align to that. But any specific wars that are close to your heart?
Oh, and there's been loads. Obviously, there's the shitcoin ones.
Well, that's ongoing.
Yeah, all the shitcoin memes. It's just just the laughing memes. It's the Matrix meme. It's just a lot of memes towards no coiners. That they just don't get it, and they just want to be plugged in. The memes against the vegans.
Bitcoin. Yeah.
Against the ESG people.
What would Mrs. No Show think about those memes?
Where you try and shoot them.
The fiat self versus the Bitcoin self. That's a good one. If you think about it, once upon a time we had a fiat self mined as well, and then slowly but surely, whoever read the Bitcoin Standard or another, or orange pilled by a friend or a family member, then you look back at yourself and think, wow, why did I ever think that? Or why do they then think that? And how can you help them? And I think that's one where you're just like, oof, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, the meme I like he puts in here, one after my own heart here. He says, many a Bitcoiner's journey can be summed up as follows. Number 1, what the fuck is this? Number 2, what the fuck is that? Number 3, what the fuck? Number 4, the fuck? 5, fuck. 6, all in. And that just is the journey, right? It's just the beginning of the journey is just what the fuck? Like you just go, this can't be real. You can't, all that isn't a lie. And then you go, oh, it is. Oh shit. Oh shit. Like, you just keep going down the rabbit hole of realizing how corrupt the existing system is. And you just go, all in. That's the final step of a Bitcoiner's journey, just going, yep, I am fucking out of that shit. I'm into Bitcoin.
It's true. It's true. And I see it myself with, from back in 2017, a little bit here, a little bit more, and then carrying on, and then big money dumps come along the way. And, we were talking about a certain stock share price and its fall from grace. But I myself pulled out of that stock and put my money into Bitcoin, and I'm glad I made that choice. But it's all part of the journey.
Yeah. I liked another quote I liked in here actually is every man is happy until happiness is suddenly a goal.
Mm.
And it links to a video called Happiness, and it's just a 4-minute video of literally a rat winning a race. And I watched it, and I think I had seen it before, but it's a great just little short video of a rat basically winning a race. And it's, he's in the classic rat race, clogged up streets, fighting to get on the tube, standing in queue for everything, and everything's advertised at him as happiness, whether it be burgers, TVs, whatever. And it's just, you'll be happy once you have this thing. And guess what? He never is. Eventually ends up hitting the bottle, gets drunk, it works for a little bit, but then he falls off that. He's not happy anymore. Then he finds medication, and he's like, oh, he's fucking blissful once he's popping some pills. But guess what? Come down happens, and you realize he's not happy again. And then there's this there's $100 note floats in front of him, and he starts chasing it, and it falls into a rat trap, and it slams down on his head, and he gets the $100, and his hands are just there, and he has to start typing on a computer, and it zooms out, and there's just a load of rats in traps typing on computers, and you just go, holy shit, that's powerful. Because that's the fiat debt slavery system, right? That's the system they want us to live in, and that's the system that they think is okay. It's fine that we have to fucking beg, steal, and borrow. And the fiat world is just, it's all about time preference. This is the whole rat race thing is have a high time preference, earn as much money as you can, but spend it. You got to show your wealth. Whereas when you compare it to a Bitcoiner's view of the world, it's low time preference. It's to earn money, but spend time with your family. So spend time with what's worthwhile. Eat well. Don't worry about all the trappings that wealth can bring you. If you can afford it, then great, but don't get into debt. And don't just chase the latest trends, whether it be trainers or TVs or whatever. Just because when it all comes down to it, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
It's a great article though. There, so there's so many. It's almost like
I think we could make a whole show on these.
Yeah,
I was thinking that when I was doing the research ahead of today's pod, thinking we could literally talk about each subject matter and the meme that goes along with it.
Yeah, it is awesome. But I love the fiat memes that are mixed in here. The whole "you own nothing and be happy."
Yeah.
Well, welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. These are real quotes from the World Economic Forum, and they think these are good quotes. This is in their marketing material. What the fuck? And then Christine Lagarde's in here saying we should be happier to have a job than to have our savings protected. Yeah. Oh, that's great. So hold on, what have I got a job for?
Yeah.
Isn't that to earn money so I can then save and then retire and earn a good life? What is the point in a job if you steal my savings out the back end, you dumb woman? And again, that's a real quote from the president of European Central Bank. This is not some muppet. This is the top woman, supposedly.
Well, it's a woman who was done for some kind of financial misdemeanors in France and then given the top job over European Central Bank. I think it was fraud, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So, and now she runs the European Central Bank. It just says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. And literally, and you'd think that even though she's blatantly a puppet, at least pretend that. Like, how can you say that? What, you've got a job? Don't worry the fact your life savings get stolen. Like, what kind of person can actually say that out loud and think that was a sensible thing to say?
Well, she's a fraudster. She don't give a shit.
But it's not even a good lie, right? At least lie.
How will you curb inflation? You will see.
Yeah.
But how are you going to do it? It will come.
It will come.
How? It will come. But Christina, it's doubled. It will come.
Right, well, there we have it. Another pod brought to you by the world's most bullish podcast, The 4Bs, in sync. And we are probably, I should have said at the start of the show, and I'm going to maybe add it into our intro, we are the unsponsorable podcast.
Aren't we sponsored by Bitcoin Lessons?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
paid for those scampy fries.
Yeah. Mr. All-In, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and of course, Mrs. No Show. Still Mrs. No Show. Pod 92. Peace.